Hello and welcome to the channel, Dual Sport Dad. We're here watching the second day of the Virginia TAT. This is episode 1 of that day. I'm here with my wife Dee, and this is Dual Sport Dad, also known as Brandon or B. And thank you for joining us. We're here today to just chit chat and talk while we watch these scenes that we taped and go over what we've seen and what we've done over these past couple years.
You want to explain to the audience how we ended up on a road in the middle of West Virginia?
Sure. It started back during COVID. We were all stuck during the lockdown, and I had not really looked at the app YouTube before, and before that I just saw it as something that the kids use to be entertained with, or the occasional do-it-yourself type educational tool. So I really hadn't explored YouTube before, and during lockdown I just started searching different things and realizing that it just was an explosion of different type of content. And one of the things I found was people riding motorcycles in western North Carolina. And I saw all these roads that were very close to where I lived. We live outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. And there was these roads that were not too far away, like within an hour or so distance from us. And there was a combination of dirt roads and back roads that just looked gorgeous, and I knew we had some gorgeous back roads. We've done our fair share riding around, traveling here or there, but I really hadn't explored a lot of dirt roads before. So, and then during the lockdown I got exposed to the type of motorcycles that were coming out. And one of them was the Honda CT125, and I started watching people ride that bike as well, and I was fascinated by it because when I was 9 years old I had a Honda 110 three-wheeler, and my neighbor about a half mile down the road had a Honda CT70, and he let me ride it one day, and it was a pretty cool little bike. I was a little envious, but I still love my little Honda. You always have your first love, and probably the Honda 110 three-wheeler was mine. Pretty sure I almost killed myself on it a couple times, but I learned a lot. I enjoyed it so much living up in Granville County in the rural areas, riding that later on in life, after we had bought this home that we're in, and had a little bit of money, I actually thought about riding motorcycles 20 years ago, or it seemed like 20 years ago, and took the motorcycle safety course and passed it, and did buy a bike at the time. But when I started riding it, I just had this feeling like it wasn't the right time. I had little kids, and if something were to happen to me, my family would not be prepared for whatever was to come. So I put those dreams to the side, and I focused on supporting my family and making them as financially stable as I could and being there for them. And fast forward 15 years later, we're in the lockdown. My kids are graduating high school, in high school, and we were pretty financially secure. I achieved all the goals I wanted to achieve, and I'm sitting here on the lockdown looking at YouTube, and I'm watching these guys my age having the time of their lives, whether they're in a Jeep or on a motorcycle, and they weren't too far away from me, and they were just doing things that I wanted to do. And I remember watching this and saying, I want to do this. So I took the motorcycle safety class again. Even though I passed the first time, it had been so long I could not find the paperwork. I couldn't find the certificate. And I figured I could find it and use it, or I could just go through the class again and get a refresher, because I hadn't been riding. The only thing I've been riding was a four-wheeler, which I think I bought after I decided not to pursue that dream many years before. So I just got a four-wheeler and rode that here and there on trails or just around the property. But so I took the class again, passed it again, got my license this time, and then I started looking at different bikes. And like I said, and I bring this back to the Honda CT 125, I was fascinated by that new old retro bike coming back. It was a neat little bike. It is cool in its own way. The problem for me was it was too underpowered for my body frame. I'm a pretty big guy, and I was watching the guys watching it or riding them, and they looked to be way less than me. So I just didn't think it would work well for the type of riding I wanted to do. But I'm all about details. I'm all about researching. And what I looked at the CT 125 specifications, and I started comparing that to other bikes. And one of the things I did the past couple years after the lockdown and trying to follow this dream was use the skills I've acquired over the years. And I started putting it out in a spreadsheet, the specifications of the CT 125 and all these other bikes that I could look at that were coming out or just were available at the time. And I was comparing everything. I was comparing engine size, top speed, fuel tank size, seat height, fuel mileage, everything. Different makes, different models. I did know that I didn't want a heavy bike or a large bike. I had watched a long time ago, was it Long Way Down and Long Way Around or whatever? What was his name? Obi-Wan Kenobi. What's his name? Help me out. The guy who played Obi-Wan and Kenobi.
You're asking the one who says the guy with the hair.
Yeah, I can't remember his name right now. What's his name? I can see his face. Ewan McGregor. Ewan McGregor. Yes. I did not look that up. I did recollect that. So anyway, he made these documentaries of traveling, I think, from Europe to over Russia to Asia, and then I think he did another one from South America up into North America, something like that. It's been so long since I've watched them, but I did remember watching those way back when. I respected their adventure, their plan, their goal. But I always felt like watching that, being a novice, not being a motorcycle rider, daily rider myself, I felt like the struggle, what they were trying to do, just didn't work with the environment that they found themselves in. Primarily because they had these big, heavy bikes with a lot of luggage, and they were going through a lot of times roads that were just not suited for those types of bikes. It seemed like to me, And then I did. The only thing I remember is every time they hit asphalt, they were so happy. That was like the only time they were happy was on asphalt. So I kind of remember that. It's always stayed in the back of my head. So I started comparing all these bikes, and I kept coming back to this one bike that I eventually was comparing it to the CT 125, because the one thing about CT 125 was it was lightweight compared to most bikes. It was just drastically underpowered. And I kept coming back to this one bike that I bring up because it was the first motorcycle safety class that I took many years ago, and they put me on a Yamaha XT 225. I think it was like a 2002 model or something like that. And I remember just getting on it and instantly feeling comfortable. very confident. I remember getting on it and having the same feeling that I had from the Honda 110 three-wheeler when I was 9 years old. Just instant connection. And when I was doing all this research and I was trying to really find the right bike for me to start, if I was going to follow this dream and really see it through to the end, to see if it was going to be something I was going to do long term, I just remember that bike in the back of my head. So I started comparing the specifications between that bike and the CT 125, and what I found was the weight was the same, which was shocking to me. A Yamaha XT 225 Dual Sport was the same weight as a Honda CT 125. Granted, the Honda CT 125 was brand new. You had the reliability. It would probably fire up and go wherever you want it to go. Meanwhile, the XT 225 is not made anymore. If I bought one, it would be used. So there's pros and cons that I was constantly weighing back and forth, to buy used, to buy new. But when I noticed that they were the same weight, I started thinking to myself, I remember how confident I felt on that. And I started doing some more digging, and I was like, oh, it's got a 6th gear. The fuel tank is not so great, but that could be adjusted if I really got into it. And I just started feeling inspired again, because I was comparing the feeling I had riding that bike versus what I was seeing other people do on their bikes. And I was like, I could do this with this bike. It might not be able to go long distance, but I could do this, on a day ride or whatever, and explore these roads not too far away. So that's how I, during the lockdown, started shopping around, and I found a bike that wasn't too far away. It was reasonably priced, comparatively speaking, because everything seemed to be expensive at the time during the lockdown. I got my hands on a used bike, 2005 XT 225, and it's probably, most guys listening to this, if they're even listening to this at this point, were like, that's a very small displacement bike, that's boring. But to me, it was everything I needed and everything I wanted to start, to begin. And I did do many journeys on that. A lot of times I started on asphalt, and I did do some modifications, but I enjoyed it, and the more I rode it, the more I knew I wanted to do it, pursue it. And but being a used bike, I had some issues with it, and it led me to look at other bikes, and I got to know some of the YouTube channels and got to know some people in it. And one of them, his name was Chris Watson from PSBE Adventures. And he recommended the DR350, and I didn't know much about the DR350, but I found one available, and I went ahead and bought one, and I've enjoyed that one as well. But I still keep coming back to the XT 225 because that was the original dream. Watching the YouTube, watching the lockdown, I discovered a Sam Carrero made the Transamerica Trail, and I just found that I not only wanted to explore Western North Carolina, but I wanted to go across this Transamerica Trail that started originally up in Ripley, West Virginia, and followed all the way through to Oregon, I believe. And there was just all these back roads and dirt roads across the United States. And that just something I've been working towards for the past couple years. I've been modifying the XT. I just always had in my head, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it with this XT, because all these videos I've watched, people are doing all these fantastic bikes, and I saw that a guy named Angelo Gianni, Ange from Some Guy Rides, did the CT 125 across the United States, and basically that was an amazing trip to watch, someone from CT 125 across the United States. But I wanted to do something that no one else that I've seen do, and that was the Yamaha XT 225. I wanted to show that this bike's just as capable, and I just wanted to see it done. So that's the bike I chose. I remember when we were still trying to get financially the plan of what we were going to do. I was still trying to reach my financial goals. I was so close to getting the house paid off that I wanted to create my own Transamerica Trail through North Carolina up to Ripley, West Virginia. And I told myself once I had the bike the way I wanted it, that's the first thing I was going to do, was do my version of the Transamerica Trail before I officially started the Transamerica Trail. And so I created that and mapped it out, and we did it over the summer. That was one of the things we did. I did the Smoky Mountain 500 kind of as a test run, Memorial Day weekend. The bike had a critical mechanical failure. I was lucky enough, Chris helped me out to get the DR350. He happened to have it at his shop. He was looking at it for me, checking it out. So he brought it up and met me, swapped them out, and I rode the DR350 through the Memorial Day weekend until the rains just shorted out the electronics. So we only made it halfway. But it was fun. It made me realize this is what I wanted to continue with. I had a blast doing it, even though that weekend was, partial failure. But we learned a lot. I learned what I was capable of doing and had a blast doing it. So we got the XT225 back up and running, and I was able over the summer to ride it on my version of the TAT from Carolina Beach up to Ripley, West Virginia. We did it in sections. D, you didn't want to ride a motorcycle. You opted for a Jeep, which at first I was like, I wasn't sure how that would work out, but so far that's worked out great. And we got a bike rack. That's one of the great things about the XT225. It's lightweight enough that we could put that on a motorcycle rack and put it on the back of a two-door Jeep, and we can haul that thing pretty much anywhere we want to. It's got a custom bumper, so that custom bumper allows us to put that bike rack on, which the bike rack is probably 50 pounds or less, and the bike itself is under 300 pounds, so we're all under 500 pounds total, and it seems to do the job. So that's the backstory. That's how we got here. A couple of weeks back, we did the West Virginia TAT. My version I created was, I think, pretty fun, especially when we got up into Virginia, West Virginia. That was amazing. I knew most of the roads through the North Carolina because I had ridden them so much over the years with you and also with my dad. But once we got into Virginia and West Virginia, it was amazing because that was a whole new territory. But it was a great time going up on my route and then doing Sam's route through West Virginia. That was amazing too. And then we put that out on the channel, and then we did day one of the Virginia TAT. And then for my anniversary, you were kind enough to give me an Insta360 X3 camera. So that's what we're seeing here with everyone. Was day 2 right now of using that camera, and someone recommended we do some commentary with the video. So that's what we're doing now. We're trying to expand our horizons, something new that we're doing, following our dreams. I think it's safe to say my dream has become your dream to the extent of the travels. We've enjoyed mapping out our own routes through the Carolinas, and now we're wrapping up our adventures through West Virginia and Virginia and back into North Carolina. And then we're going to head west over next 2025 as we do the Transamerica Trail in segments. So that's an adventure, but up until recently, we kind of hit our first major obstacle, which was the storm Hurricane Helene. We haven't been back into Western North Carolina since Hurricane Helene, and after all the travels we had through the summer and through the past couple years, I almost can't bring myself to go through there. I think it would break my heart, and because we lived it, we were on the outskirts of it, and so many people suffered. So it's going to be hard to drive through there, but it's this goal we started long before. I feel like we need to soldier on and get through it. But the next few episodes after we get out of Virginia, they're going to be hard, but we're going to make the best of it. So that's the intro so far. Did you have any other questions?
Well, I'm watching along with the video. You want to tell them approximately where we're at?
Yeah, on this episode, we are traveling, like I said, day 2 of Virginia TAT. We started in Ripley, West Virginia, and we made it down to Marlington, West Virginia in prior episodes. And Virginia, day 1, we made it through from Marlington, West Virginia to Covington, Virginia. And the video footage that we're seeing right now is from Covington, Virginia, down to Bland, Virginia. And hopefully in the near future, maybe this Sunday, we'll be setting out from Bland and make our way to Damascus. And if we have a great day, we might even make it down to Blowing Rock, which would put us on 321 and make it easy to come back home. Like I said, we live outside of Charlotte, so it won't be too far away from home at that point, at least for now. And then from then on, it'll be going west. So, but yeah, this is video footage from Covington, taking the back roads and dirt roads through to Bland, Virginia. So, yeah, I talked a lot about my bike that I've been on, the XT225. Why don't you, Dee, tell them about your Jeep? That's been a major part of this journey we've had. So, do you anything you want to say about your Jeep?
Yeah, we wouldn't be partnering up on these rides if it wasn't for the Jeep. This girl doesn't do 2 wheels. I have to have 4. So yeah, we went about finding me a Jeep. I found a 2016 2-door Wrangler. She's previously owned. I really appreciate the mods that the previous owner put on there. As he mentioned before, the modded out bumper on the back allows for us to put that tow rack. So when we head up to West Virginia, those long drives, we can knock that out early in the morning hours and then unload his bike for the ride back down. It makes it a lot easier to be able to travel a lot more miles with him riding the bike. So it makes for a great long day for us.
Well, I hear a lot of people name their Jeeps. So why don't you tell us the name of your Jeep?
Well, she's a 2-parter. She's Dragonfire. She's a dark, stormy blue color Jeep, and I wanted to make her color pop, so we went with the lime green and Dragonfire and Game of Thrones. It's a good show to watch, and got a lot of inspiration came from that. Also, the 2-parter is that my windshield name across the top, which kind of designated towards the driver myself, Baptized Heathen. Could kind of go 2 ways. My Jeep's been baptized in crossing the different water crossings in the mud, but also I would consider myself a baptized heathen.
Yeah.
At least my kids do.
Yeah, we came up with so many great names when you got your Jeep. We were excited that you got your Jeep, and that it helped. See, originally when I got the motorcycle, I was going out on my own, which was great in its own way because I could like create a route and test it out and see where I would venture out and explore. But at the same time, I always felt guilty leaving the D or the kids at home. So eventually I would take the kids in my car and show them some of the routes, and they had fun. But after a while, they got bored. Like they just wanted to be back home doing their own thing. But I also felt guilty leaving you behind because I wanted to share these adventures. I hated going out on these beautiful roads and seeing this beautiful scenery and these beautiful homes or whatever, the landscapes, the waterfalls, whatever I happened to find on my travels, I hated that you weren't there to see it. So, fortunately, we had the means to get you a Jeep, and we searched and searched and finally found one that you were very confident on or happy with, and that really changed things as far as our travels, to the point that you started tagging along. And at first we didn't even have the bike rack. I would just ride my bike and you would follow, but eventually you felt confident enough to have the bike rack, and that allowed me to ride with you up to where we wanted to start our journey, and then unload the bike, and I would ride separately. And I didn't invest in an intercom right away, which I kind of wish I had done that sooner.
Oh, that's a game changer.
Yeah, but since I picked up one and we got you a headset, we can now talk from our vehicles, and it makes everything so much easier. As far as if I'm up ahead and I can tell her if something's coming, obstacle, whether it be a hole in the road or obstruction, or there's an oncoming truck or vehicle, she's aware of it. Excuse me. Tight turns, slick.
Well, not only that, you're more nimble on that bike. It's a billy goat. You can take off ahead of me. And if there's a turn up ahead, you can kind of let me know ahead of time instead of having to stop and wait for me all the time.
Right. Especially if we're on a switchback and it's washboardy, and that Jeep does not do well with a washboard going downhill. So, well, at least it does fine enough, but you got to be aware of it if it's coming, so you can have the right speed. That's always the thing, is matching up the speeds of the bike with the Jeep, and that way everybody's comfortable and having a good time. Because at the end of the day, we found that as long as we're just cruising along, enjoying, having a good pace, and we're just clicking off the miles and seeing the beautiful scenery, that's what it's all about. We get there when we get there. Some days are longer than others when we're trying to, especially when we're going out to places like West Virginia or Northern Virginia. It's long days to get up there and set up, and especially now we're doing video footage like this. We want to make great shots that if anyone wants to follow along with our travels, they can enjoy it as much as we do. And as great as these shots are, and this camera's really nice. I've really enjoyed the footage that we're getting out of it.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yes, thank you. It still, to some degree, doesn't do it justice what we see firsthand.
It doesn't.
So if anyone's considering doing this for their own benefit, I strongly urge it. I don't even care if you have whatever you got, use it. If it's a motorcycle, great. If it's a 4-door sedan, do it. Some roads you can do it on, but definitely try it out and see if this is something you're interested in. Check it out and see if it's something you want to pursue. With that, we'd like to thank you for joining along on our first commentary episode. There'll be more to come. We have more footage and more travels. Please like and subscribe, and thank you again. Dee, you want to say anything before we wrap up?
No, thank you for joining on this go, and hope to see you again.
Thank you.